Mic check. 1 2 3 4. 1 2 3 4. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Blackscreen episode 4. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. I know I know that not ideal, certainly not ideal to have it on a Friday. The one day where people are excited to get out of work. Certainly not ideal, obviously, to get be free from work for the day and come back to this. I know it's certainly not ideal, but we have to make do with what we have. It is what it is. I have successfully fixed most of the network issues that were plaguing the previous stream, so that's good. And I don't have to change the UI, so that's good. Bad thing though, a very bad thing with this, though, is that the quality takes a hit, and that's unfortunate. But it is something that we will have to make do. Besides, nobody watches podcasts, they read podcasts. I mean, they listen to podcasts, so that is something that doesn't bother me too much. It does bother me, it just doesn't bother me as much as it probably, should. But hey, welcome, everybody. Welcome. I know there's some new faces here, some old faces as well. Minecraft World, you sound a lot better on my end. That is good. That is good. That is the goal. It seems my VPN is working perfectly. And yeah, so welcome, episode 4. So episode 4 originally was supposed to be talking about the MCU, specifically how it's falling apart, and that Avengers Doomsday is going to be bad. Obviously, that is the topic. However, the week prior, when we were discussing the topic, I couldn't find the original video because, well, I was an idiot. So I ended up covering something that was completely not the plan and ended up creating a more fruitful discussion. The issue with that, though, is that I spent more time than I intended. So I will try to recap what I said there because I know what I said there was pretty meaningful. However, it didn't really come through because of all the audio visual tisms that were happening with OBS, all the bitrate issues that I had to go with. Yeah. Minecraft World says, before you start, I just want to say that Iron Lung was very good. Yeah, no, I do have intentions of watching Iron Lung in theaters. I don't think I might be able to because money right now is very low because I was sick. But I do intend on watching the movie eventually. But I'm not going to watch it until I beat the game, which I actually did manage to get the game. It was like $4 at Steam. There was like a discount. I'm assuming the discount came because of the movie, which is good. That is always good. But yeah, it was very cheap at a very cheap price. I got the game, so I do intend on beating the game before I actually watch the movie so that I know what I'm talking about when I actually do cover the movie, because I do plan on covering this movie on this stream eventually. Probably a solo stream, if not then a stream with my fellow co-hosts if they are available. But for the time being right now, this will be a solo stream because Marvel, as some of you that are new to the channel, if there are anybody that are new to the channel, is my area of expertise. I am a bit of a capes nerd, so I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to this kind of stuff. However, I'm not a complete expert. There are some stuff that I am missing. I am missing a lot of stuff, actually. There's a huge chunk of comics that I did not read. A lot of them take place in the past. But I have read some classics, like Kraven's Last Hunt. Kraven's Last Hunt being my all-time favorite. Most of the comics that I have read that are classics are Spider-Man related. If not, then Moon Knight. I believe I have read some Avengers stuff here and there. I probably read Civil War. I don't remember. It's been a while. Werewolf by Night. Actually, no Werewolf by Night. Spider-Man Blue, I think. Oh, what's it called? Marvel Ruins. I've read that. And Marvel Zombies, I think, if I do recall correctly. I might have to read it again because I do remember enjoying Marvel Zombies. I've read tidbits, small bits and pieces, not completely, of Dark Avengers, some chunks here and there, although Dark Avengers will be relevant to this discussion. But yeah, so let's get started on what we actually are going to talk about. Before we begin, I just want to clarify, yes, I am still sick. However, I'm doing a lot better now than I was last week. orders of magnitude better. I've been coughing like crazy in the middle of the night, so like basically just wheezing. That's not good. Another thing too that you'll notice is that my Discord halo around my profile picture is not popping up. It's not displaying audio activity, and that is because for solo streams I have decided to just simply screenshot my profile picture and leave it there, because Discord takes up a lot of bitrate, which slows down the footage. So I thought, hey, you know what, this could be a clever workaround, and so here we are. And because there's no one else here, then I thought, well, you know what, this is probably going to be the best solution you could come up with for this kind of thing. So yeah, I'm very smart. Obviously, I have an IQ of 700. I have an IQ of 6,700. 67,420.69. That is my full IQ number. Yeah, I'm very smart. I'm a genius, obviously. And so let's get started. So, the MCU is currently in what I like to call hell, because it's in pure narrative hell. It's in complete disarray. The plot and the world building is completely obliterated. There is none of either, really. The characters have been completely vivisected, eviscerated on the altar of I don't want to say pandering, because that was a Phase 4 issue. Phase 5 and 6 is literally just terrible writing. I know that a lot of YouTubers like to say, oh, pandering this, oh, woke that. There is like a little bit of truth that there was a little bit of it. However, it is possible to make it well written. Anything can be well written. I would argue that a movie like Wicked is well written. Wicked, not Wiccan. I sound like I said Wiccan. No, Wicked. The thing is, though, in Marvel's case, yes, it was pandering, but the problem ultimately was that the priority was the pandering over good storytelling, as opposed to just marrying the two concepts. Now, for these YouTubers, the ideal would be there should be exclusively good writing and nothing else. But some YouTubers also focus on both. There should, if you want to pander, then fine, but you should also marry it with good writing, which, I mean, on the surface it is agreeable enough. My focus is just writing as a whole. So yeah, just focus on that. But Marvel has completely ignored that, not just in the movie section, but in the comic section recently. I mean, just look at the current Amazing Spider-Man run. It is garbage. It is absolute garbage. But Phase 4 was a completely different problem from the problems that Phase 5 and 6 have. Phase 4, I believe, is where Multiverse of Madness takes place. I don't recall. But Multiverse of Madness is probably the most damaging movie out of the entire MCU. Not to say that the other movies don't do world-building damage. I believe Black Widow does as well. And the shows, too. The shows do a lot of damage. I think Hawkeye and Moon Knight and... Yeah, Hawkeye and Moon Knight are probably... Oh, Loki. How could I forget Loki? Hawkeye, Moon Knight, Loki, and She-Hulk are the shows that do the most damage to the world. I would say. And Loki is at the lowest. No, Loki is at the highest. Moon Knight is at the lowest. Of that. I can't really rank them precisely. Oh, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I wouldn't say it does too much damage, but it does do a lot of damage to the characters, specifically of Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes. I would say that it brought us the U.S. agent, John Walker, the best character to come out of Phases 4, 5, and 6. Obviously, anybody with a brain would realize that John Walker is actually a good person. He's a good guy. Possibly the only person you could reasonably call a hero, and a competent one as well. Thunderbolts tried to make him incompetent, and I resent that movie for it. The whole baby thing is there as well. They keep bringing up the fact that he killed an innocent terrorist. Oh, but Falcon said, "Oh, you gotta stop calling them terrorists." Okay, fine then. Aggressive Robin Hoods. You want to call them that? Yeah, sure. Murderous Robin Hoods. Yeah. A lot of immoral messages in a lot of the Marvel uh shows and movies there as well. The world breaking is very significant in Loki. However, because I haven't watched Loki, I only know the tidbits. So basically, thanks to Loki, free will does not exist. Thanks, Loki. We live in a Calvinist world now. Thanks, Loki. Uh, then there's the the whole issue with, like, if you want to get technical, um, not it's not just free will. You have to apply that for every single person ever that makes any decision at any given point in time. Um, so I'm know right now that I'm all over the place. But that's mainly because I'm recapping the previous stream, which is unfortunately unwatchable. So I would recommend, not worrying about that. But I think the most world-breaking movies are Spider-Man: Far From Home. I mean, No Way Home. The Eternals, Multiverse of Madness, Thor: Love and no, no, not that one. Quantumania, Deadpool and Wolverine, and yeah, those are the most damaging movies to come out of Phase 4. The most damaging shows are Loki, Season 1 and 2. Uh, hmm. She-Hulk, I've already said that. And Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion. I forgot about that show completely. Secret Invasion does a lot of damage to the world. They basically retcon Captain Marvel. They go, "Oh, the Skrulls that were actually the victims, yeah, no, they were actually villains." So I think they were just rectifying that because of the reception of Captain Marvel, because nobody likes Captain Marvel. So they were just going back to formula with that one and go, "Oh yeah, no, the Skrulls are actually villains and they're infiltrating the planet Earth and they've been here since, decades ago." Oh, Rhodey, War Machine, he's been a Skrull this whole time. So uh Tony Stark spent his final moments, instead of his best friend, he spent it with a Skrull. So yeah. Um so now you have multiple organizations, because Shang-Chi established that the Ten Rings have existed since the time of, I don't know, Genghis Khan. So you have the Ten Rings, you have Hydra, you have the Skrulls, you have the Red Room, four secret organizations that have existed in the past that begin to affect the real world now. This is a problem that you cannot, that the MCU keeps running into. You cannot retroactively establish prior um organizations that have been around for hundreds of thousands of years, or hundreds of years, or decades. You cannot establish that and then have their motivation still be relevant in the present without doing any sort of damage. You cannot do that. Otherwise, you break the world. Especially if those goals conflict. Because eventually you have to pay it off in the future, or at least the present, in ways that conflict with the movies, or at least the stories that you're trying to tell. So basically, let's look at the Eternals, for example. The Eternals is a perfect example. So the Eternals um solidify the creation myth that is the MCU. You have the Celestials that create the universe. They create planets, they create solar systems, they create alien life across the board. And in order to perpetuate the life cycle of the Eternals, not the Eternals, the Celestials, they have to plant little seeds inside the planet that are hatched thanks to the presence of sentient intelligent life. So intelligent life has to continue living, evolving, and growing over time until they reach the correct quota, in which case the emergence, as they call it, happens, and a celestial bursts from the planet, destroying the life and the planet by extension, in which case the energy that is caused from the emergence is used to form new planets, new life, so it's kind of like an Ouroboros type of, it's a cyclical sort of life cycle, you know what I mean? So, problem, predators exist that feed on intelligent life. So what do the Celestials do? They create these predators to kill the predators, called the Deviants. Uh-oh, the Deviants are so good at their job that they end up targeting the intelligent life, and now they become predators to intelligent life. Uh-oh, you have a problem now. So what do? You create the Eternals, which are agents that are supposed to perpetuate and aid intellectual life, giving them technology, helping them in any way that they can. Problem, they are weaker than the Deviants, so they are weaker than the thing that they were assigned to take care of, which was assigned to keep the thing that the Celestial needs alive, instead of just getting rid of the Deviants altogether, which is stupid, obviously. Fun fact, the Eternals are invested in the preservation of life because it produces the emergence. Problem, there were multiple world-ending events that have happened throughout the entire MCU for as long as they have existed. The arrival of Loki and the Chitauri, Ultron, Thanos. Yeah, that was pretty significant, I would say. Immensely significant. The Eternals are probably the most prominent example of where the hell have you been all this time. Yeah, no, it's not even that. It's like their goals conflict with the stories that the movies of the present want to tell. Because you have to just... Well, it is what you're saying, but they have to have had a reason to not interfere. But that would assume, like, if you wanted to say they knew that they were going to prevail, okay, do they have foresight? Okay, well, they would have foresight up until a point, right? Like the emergence, for example. So they would know about the emergence. And because these Eternals, for some reason, have free will, which, why would you give them free will? Because they have free will, if they see the emergence in the future, they would have to oppose it, right? So they can't do that. You can't have... So fundamentally, the Eternals just fall apart completely. Nothing about them makes sense. Yeah. The Eternals are terrible. And the Eternals not being involved with Thanos, even though this plan would mess up everything for the Celestials. No, that's the funny thing about Thanos, because they are aware of Thanos, and they are aware of what he's capable of. They are aware of his plan. They are aware of what he wants to do. Doesn't that mean that he... Wouldn't that imply... Because if he is a Celestial, I'm pretty sure that he is at least related to them. Not the Celestials, the Eternal... Well, actually, no, the Celestials. If he's related to them at some capacity, wouldn't that mean that he would know about the emergence, in which case he would want to stop it? Which means that... I don't know if this is damage to Infinity War. But yeah, no, like, that opens a whole can of worms that the movies just simply won't explain. So another thing, which I should probably mention, Infinity War has a lot of problems. It's like the UN; they don't actually have any power. Nice one. Yeah, no, they don't. But yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, Infinity War has a lot of problems. It has great character writing, but the plot falls apart in so many areas. So, it is confirmed by Kevin Feige that the plan that Thanos had is to wipe out half of all life, not just sentient life. This includes flora, this includes fauna, this includes phytoplankton. So, you ask yourself, well, wait a minute, why didn't Thanos wipe out... Well, if the problem is resources, because he does posit it as a resource problem. The universe is finite, its resources are finite. Okay, so make more resources. No. Oh, so we gotta kill everyone. Okay, yeah. Okay, fine, fine. Because he's a okay, fine. We'll take it. Maybe genocide really is the only option, right? Let's grant him that, right? Problem. A lot of the resources are living things, and he's wiping them out. Yeah, we have a problem there. uh, you have a pretty big problem there now because you're eliminating the thing that you said we need more of, or at least like the issue is that there's not enough of it. So you're killing us so that there's enough of the thing, but you're also getting rid of a sizable chunk of the thing in the process of killing us, Thanos. So yeah, no, no, that doesn't work. That just simply it doesn't work, right? So imagine, think of all the living things that are currently inside your body right now that you need to survive. The bacteria, the intestinal flora in your stomach. If Thanos wipes out half of all life with the snap of his fingers, you know what that means? It means that if you survive, at least half of all your intestinal flora is gone. You know what happens when half of your intestinal flora is gone? Your immune system just stops working. Alternate History Hub demonstrated exactly why this is a bad thing in the video back then. He didn't go all the way because he didn't have all the details. So, I know which video you're talking about, Minecraft World, but he didn't go all the way. He had a good enough idea, and he did make a correction later on. I don't remember what he said in the correction. I'm pretty sure that it was something along the lines of it would have been worse than what I would have said, which yeah. But even in the correction, he didn't take into account the fact that canonically he wiped out half of all life, not just sentient life. Because at least if you wipe out half of all life, even though it would end up killing more people in the long run, you could still, in theory, bounce back from it over the course of a few hundred years. Thing is, it was half of all life. Half of your intestinal flora is gone. Your immune system does not work anymore. Think about that. The plankton in the ocean that we need, by the way, there is bacteria and plankton in the ocean that produce more oxygen than trees do. And he's wiping half of all life, which includes said phytoplankton. All that plankton, all that bacteria will be wiped out, will be snapped, would you just be dusted. Yeah. That's not good. That's not good for the world. And then you have Endgame, which breaks the world even further. And okay, humanity in the span of 6 years managed to bounce back. How? I don't know. Nature managed to bounce back. How? I don't know, but we'll go with it. Let's say, for the sake of argument, because we don't actually have real numbers, let's say, for the sake of argument, that we have 8 billion people, and 4 billion of those people were snapped away. Which means that the population would probably plummet to 3 billion. Let's just, for the sake of argument, 3 billion. It might probably be less, maybe 2 billion, but for the sake of argument, let's just go with 3 billion, right? In the span of 6 years, let's say you bounce back and you climb back up to 5 billion. Let's say people decide to screw like rabbits. This is like the best case assumption. They screw like rabbits to regain the population. And so does nature. Nature bounces back. So let's say there are 10 billion living things and there's 5 billion now. And it goes back up to like 6 or 7 billion. Right? With the snapping being undone, right? That is an additional 5 billion to the 7 billion and an additional 4 billion to the 7 billion. Or like the 6 or like an additional 4 billion to like the 2 or 3 billion. Which means that 4 billion plus 3 billion, 7, 4 plus 3, 7, right? Billion, right? Um, and now you have more living things than you had before. Now, this is trying to be as realistic as possible. If we want to go with MCU logic, because they have significantly less of it than I would probably have, let's say the population bounce in 6 years, bounce back from 4 billion back to 7 billion. That means that 4 billion people are brought back, which means that 7 plus 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11 billion people on the planet. Plus all the additional living beings that, if like they restored their original numbers, they would be doubled. The world is worse now. Significantly worse. So the Avengers made things worse than Thanos had left them. So, yeah. Stupid problems create stupid solutions, which create even stupider problems. So the after Endgame, the world is already in shambles. Then you have Doctor Strange, which I'm gonna skip over Loki because I haven't seen Loki. So again, I only know that free will is just gone. Multiverse of Madness, cataclysmic. So with Multiverse of Madness, you have it if you travel different universes, like if you're in a universe where you don't belong, you trigger an incursion which destroys either one or two universes. Multiversal hopping. Yeah. So America Chavez just should have caused multiple incursions, as it is, destroying multiple universes just by being there. And that also includes the MCU because she traveled there, and because that's not her home universe. Yeah, the mainline MCU timeline gone. Where is the TVA involved in this? Well, it's not really time travel, but it's still multiverse related. Where is the TVA? No one knows, right? No one knows. And then we get to, where are we? Moon Knight. Ha ha. Moon Knight. I'm gonna skip a ramble. I have a whole ramble prepared for Moon Knight because I loathe that show with a passion. But basically, Moon Knight displaces the Earth. So you remember that scene? If you've seen Moon Knight, you remember that scene where he, with the help of Khonshu, helps move the heavens so that he acquires the constellation that he needs for a map. Right? Yeah. So planets move, so does the solar system. If you do that, you're basically moving heaven. You're basically moving the universe itself. Either that or you're moving the Earth. I don't know which is worse. Just pick your poison. Not only that, but because like the sun and the moon is still there, you're taking the entire solar system with you, or you're locking it in place, which makes Moon Knight ridiculously overpowered. Do you know how overpowered you are? World is broken because of that. You also would have to assume that there's no black hole where the Earth used to be 100 years ago, or 1 billion years ago, or however long it passed since, when they arrived to that constellation. I forgot that detail. They say it in the show, but I forgot what it was. However long back it was, you're assuming there's not an asteroid belt or another planet or another solar system or another sun or a black hole or a nebula. You're basically, which if the solar system were in a nebula, all that radiation falls on us. It would completely destroy the ozone layer. It would completely irradiate the Earth. We are dead. So Moon Knight killed everyone. The entire, I don't even know how he managed that. He is stupid overpowered. Retarded overpowered. Thanks, Moon Knight. You a street level hero, ladies and gentlemen. And he moved the heavens. God damn it. And what's next? She-Hulk repealed the Sokovia Accords, the show with the help of a really good avocado, Matt Murdock. Um, yeah, so the Sokovia Accords are no longer a thing anymore. And you know why they did this? They did this because there are so many implications. You can't have any more superhero shows the way you want them to if the Sokovia Accords continue to be put in place. So they basically got rid of it because it was a narrative limitation or a narrative hurdle that they wanted to get rid of, so that they don't have to write around it. So they don't want to have to ignore it, so that people keep on clamoring, well, what about the Sokovia Accords? Well, what about the Sokovia Accords? So they just got rid of it. Major world breaking implications, or at least you know what? Actually, no. Um, it's lazy writing. That's what it is. It's lazy writing. Um, that's what it is. Uh, I haven't seen Wakanda Forever. I have no idea what happens in that movie. I don't know the plot. I don't know anything. All I know is that Namor is a Native American or a Hispanic. I don't know what he is. So they because they can't use Atlantis, even though canonically, or at least in the meta, Namor precedes Aquaman, but Aquaman got a movie first, so they got Atlantis. Because they can't use Atlantis, they use a completely different name, and they decide to name Namor Akukukan, or I don't know what it was, some stupid stuff, like, I don't know. It was stupid. God, I hate Namor in that movie. Namor is so much better in the comics. Imperious Rex is a thing in the show. Not the show. Is a thing in the comics. They made it. From what I know, from the little tidbits of information that I know about Wakanda Forever, Imperious Rex is probably. I think it's non-existent. But yeah, I don't know anything else about. Oh, I know that Shuri is the Black Panther. I know that Wakanda returns to being an ethno state, where they just completely you know, keep their vibranium. There's Ironheart that was introduced in Wakanda Forever. Echo. I have seen bits and pieces of Echo. All I know is that they ruined Wilson Fisk. And that's it. It was directed by the same people that did the original Daredevil show, but they couldn't hire those people to do Daredevil Born Again for some godforsaken reason. I hate Daredevil Born Again. I loathe that show. I dropped that show after episode 4. I hate it with a passion. I loathe what they did to Matt Murdock and Foggy and Karen. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate what they did with Wilson Fisk. I hate what they did with Vanessa. It's completely out of character. I hate what they did with Dex. I hate it. Hate it. Despise it. No Way Home is catastrophic. No Way Home is absolutely catastrophic. They introduced a spell that makes you forget. For some reason, it makes you traverse the multiverse. And for some reason, if we're going by Multiverse of Madness logic, that should have caused an incursion because Lizard was there, Electro was there, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, and Sandman were there, Spider-Man and Spider-Man were there. It's just incursions everywhere. All because Peter Parker was a moron when he just he didn't detail beforehand. Like you have to assume that you basically have to say, "Oh, well, he's a teenager." No, he is a teenager, but he's also a genius. So yeah, he is a genius for his age. So he would have thought about these things. But no, you needed the plot to happen. So yippee. That's the excuse people gave. Like, oh, he's just a teenager. He didn't know how the spell works. Okay, well, if you don't know how the spell works, then ask. You know? Ask. You can do that. You have free will. Oh, boy. No Way Home, for all its character work, the Spider-Verse films are part of the MCU. No, they're not. Because Sony said so. I think because Miguel O'Hara is aware of the MCU, but I don't know. Until Kevin Feige confirms it, which I doubt that they will, because I think it's Amy something. I forgot her name. She's part of Sony. But until the head of Sony allows Kevin Feige to interact with the Spider-Verse films, then they're not canon. So they should be, because again, Miguel O'Hara directly references the MCU, Doctor Strange and Earth 1999. They do reference that, but no, they're not canon until proven otherwise. Sea Monster says the spell backfiring was supposed to result in villains who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man in other universes. Yet Electro still showed up despite not knowing Spider-Man's identity in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah, Electro shouldn't be there. You know who should be there? Venom. Venom should be there. He was briefly in the post-credit scene, but no. Venom should have been there. But the thing is that how do you justify Venom being in the movie and also have him be a villain? You can't. And you can't have him be a hero either, because he can easily help Spider-Man if he wanted to, which again, you have to have a reason why he would want to do that in the first place. But if he does want to help Spider-Man, then you have to ask yourself, okay, can he take on these people? Well, let's see. He can bond with literally anyone. He can eat people's heads, and the only character that Venom really has a trouble beating is Electro and Sandman. Everyone else he can beat. So you can't have Venom on the roster because he would beat everyone. Another thing too is you can't have Tom Hardy's Venom. That version of Venom is powerful. So you can't have that version of Venom. You can only have the Topher Grace version of Venom. But he's not coming back. Imagine if Topher Grace came back as Venom. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, like if Dane DeHaan doesn't come back as Harry Osborn's Green Goblin, which I would say that he's not as bad as people say. I think he's much better. As bad as the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is, Harry Osborn is actually an okay character. He's just ugly to look at, is all. But his Green Goblin anyway. But if Dane DeHaan is not coming back, then Topher Grace is sure as hell not coming back as Venom. That's just not going to happen. So you can't have him there either. So you need someone else to fill in the roster. And because there are so little villains, see, because that's the thing. Like, Sony already has a monopoly on 3 Spider-Man villains: Venom, Morbius, and Kraven. You can't use Morbius, and you can't use Kraven. So you basically have to come up with a new villain. But Sony has most of the... Oh, and Chameleon as well. Chameleon. I forgot about that, because Chameleon was in the Kraven movie. But you can't... See, you can't use a lot of Spider-Man villains that are owned by Sony because to fill in the roster of the Sinister Six. And again, you also have to assume that the actors would be willing to come back for this movie in the first place. And you also have to take into account their powers. If they're too overpowered, they damage the narrative. If they're too underpowered, they're useless. So you can't have them no matter what. So they had to stick with the ones that they have. They wrote themselves into that corner. No Way Home breaks in so many ways, guys. Like, the character work is great, but like, guys, No Way Home is bad. No Way Home is really bad. Oh boy. What's next? Because I've been harping on this for a while. I don't remember Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I don't remember much of the plot or how world-breaking it is. I think the most world-breaking thing that happens is just Kang being able to traverse universes and having so many different variants of himself in one place, which somehow doesn't cause incursions, but also the quantum realm. So why would people like Doctor Strange not be aware of the quantum realm if he is custodian of reality as we know it. The quantum realm is an aspect of reality, and as far back as in 2016 with Doctor Strange, the first movie, the Ancient One is aware of the quantum realm, and we actually get a tidbit of it in the scene where the Ancient One goes, "Open your mind." So the Ancient One would know, and because she was Sorcerer Supreme at one point, then I'm sure that Doctor Strange and Wong would be able to know about the quantum realm, and they would want to be involved with that. You could contain threats in the quantum realm, perhaps, mayhaps, question mark. They don't, though, because then, like, literally any villain that comes up is just, gone. Um, so I think that's probably the most world-breaking thing, just the quantum realm itself as a whole. I don't know anything about Thor: Love and Thunder except that they butchered Gord the God Butcher. They hired such a great actor and with Christian Bale. I remember the comic, bits and pieces of the comic, and it poses questions that are like actually deep. It poses questions about godhood that I think are really interesting to tackle. Thor: Love and Thunder, like from what I've seen, does it very poorly. Um, yeah, we have like one okay scene with Gore, which is his introduction, but then it just gets worse the longer it goes until we get to the point where Christian Bale goes, "This is my vow, all gods must die." And that's when stuff hits the fan, because like he has an all-powerful god-killing weapon sitting right next to him that he can just access at any point. It's literally lying on the ground when his god basically just tells him to go away to go kick rocks. It's literally lying on the ground. Why is it there? Why is something this important and this lethal, a god-killing weapon, lying on the ground on some random... It's stupid. It's so stupid. I haven't seen the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. Werewolf by Night is actually good. Secret Invasion, there's the Skrulls, I mentioned that earlier already. Guardians 3, I don't remember much of it. I don't remember it being world-breaking, per se. The Marvels, I haven't seen the Marvels. I don't know. Loki season 2, I haven't seen Loki season 2. All I know is that Loki becomes the god of time and the god of stories. What does that mean? Like literally, I have no idea what that means, what that entails, what that means for his power level, is free will reinstated in the universe? Is it restored? I don't know. I have no idea what it means to be a god of time or a god of stories. Does that mean he's Kevin Feige now? Does that mean that Loki is now God himself? I don't know. I doubt the show does. Oh boy. Deadpool and Wolverine, we will get to that. Deadpool and Wolverine. Let's get into that. I hate Deadpool and Wolverine, but it's also a terrible movie. So, basically, they ruined Logan, and I think the reason why is because I don't know why. I don't know why they did this. I highly doubt that this was Ryan Reynolds doing, because when Deadpool and Wolverine was first announced, Ryan Reynolds said that he wanted to respect Logan as much as possible. The ending of Logan. Logan is dead, his story is over, you leave it at that, keep it respectful. How do you bring back Wolverine, right? That's a tough task, That's a very tough task. He was very, joking about it. He was in his video, because he did post a video in his channel. He was very humorous about it, because again, like, Ryan Reynolds is a comedian. But he did say that he just wanted to respect it. He wanted to respect the legacy of Logan. He wanted to respect the ending. That's great. And because of his involvement in the first Deadpool movie, which was great, and the Deadpool movie, the sequel, which was just okay, because he's so invested in the character of Deadpool, I highly doubt, because like the movie has been in production hell for quite a while, but he did manage to get it the way he wanted it to, which I am happy for. Because like the first movie is actually really good, and it actually has a lot of edgy jokes that are very risky, as opposed to like the safe edgy jokes. The closest thing we get in Deadpool and Wolverine is Blade saying the word retarded in a Disney movie, no less. So like that's fun, but that's it. Jokes that like are risky but like are hilarious. I love that. But yeah, he is so creatively involved in Deadpool and so attached to the character that he made it his whole brand, to the detriment of other movies like you know, free guy. Oh boy, that movie was something. Um, but yeah, he was so attached to Deadpool that his character just became his entire personality. Um, like it's even I haven't seen Detective Pikachu, but from what I've seen, Pikachu in that movie is just Deadpool, furry Deadpool. So yeah, um, but because he's so attached to Deadpool, I highly doubt that what happened with Logan was his idea. I'm pretty sure that there was trouble behind the scenes for Deadpool and Wolverine, but yeah, I don't think he made that choice. I don't think it's a choice that he would have made. All I know is that they ruined Logan, by desecrating his corpse. Um, and yeah. But the main issue with Deadpool and Wolverine is basically the concept of anchor beings, which completely compounds on the problems of incursions. So, anchor beings are beings that either A, commit a sacrifice that is so noble that the universe just stops having a reason to exist and it just disappears and it just, like, everything dies, or a being that makes, such a noble action that, it sends shockwaves throughout the universe, which destroys it. I think the latter makes slightly more sense only because its death poses less problems, but the problems are still equally catastrophic, and here's why. Um, Iron Man. Iron Man is arguably the most important character in the MCU from phases 1 to 3. He made a noble sacrifice, and, yeah. After Endgame, like, the universe should have been obliterated by the TVA. Then there's Doctor Strange, which died 1,000 times to defeat Dormammu. So he gave his life over and over and again and again and again and again in a time loop to try and stop Dormammu. He trapped Dormammu in a time loop where he gets killed over and over and again, which I would argue is possibly, like, quantitatively the most selfless act anyone has ever done ever. Where they die, because, like, Tony Stark, what he did was selfless, don't get me wrong, it was great, it was amazing, it was just the ultimate payoff to the ultimate setup of, like, a decade of setup. It was great, it was perfect. No, it wasn't perfect, don't get me, no, it wasn't perfect at all, but it was still, like, for his character, it was still great. But Doctor Strange gave his life 1,000 times. You don't think that would have destroyed the universe 1,000 times over just for doing that? So, you know how many problems this poses, the concept of anchor beings, and you know the reason why. It's a very meta reason. Like, because Fox is owned by Disney now, and we now own the characters of the X-Men, we have to destroy that universe so we can implement our version of Wolverine, but because people really like this version of Wolverine, we're gonna make him team up with Deadpool because we've never had this version of Deadpool and this version of Wolverine team up before. We've never had Hugh Jackman team up with Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. Yes, we have, that is a lie. X-Men Origins Wolverine exists, but we've never had current day Deadpool meet with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. So we're gonna do that, because the fans love it, right? And in the meantime, we're gonna bring back people that people actually like. We're gonna bring up characters that actually like Wesley Snipes' Blade and Jennifer Garner's Elektra. Yeah, you guys remember the Elektra movie? I haven't seen Elektra. Ben Affleck's Daredevil makes a cameo, by the way, so that's fun. I know that, but that's it. All I know from the Elektra movie, which, how did that movie even get made? All I know about the Elektra movie is that Ben Affleck's Daredevil makes a cameo, but that's really it. But the movie is just generally bad. Deadpool and Wolverine, it is just bad. And so the the thing that I find fascinating about Deadpool and Wolverine, about the anchor beings, is just how shameless it is as well. Because they don't want to get rid of Hugh Jackman. They really don't want to get rid of Hugh Jackman. So they want to keep him around as long as possible. And they go, "Oh, till you're 90, till you're 90, till you're 90." Wow. That's bleak. That's very bleak. And so, hold on. What's next? What movie is next? I forgot. The anchor beings are shameless. Agatha, I don't know anything about Agatha. Daredevil Born Again is terrible, but not world breaking completely, save for Mayor Fisk. Uh, um, let's see what's next. Let's see what's next. Fantastic Four, not world breaking. Thunderbolts or the New Avengers. I don't. It's not that world breaking. Actually, no, it is pretty world breaking, but only for like the internal. See, because when I say it's not that world breaking, I'm comparing it to the likes of Multiverse of Madness, whose world breaking is cosmic, whereas the world breaking in something like Brave New World is just local. So, um, Selena Meyer, I think that's her name. I don't know. Um, her being in charge of the New Avengers, that whole thing, being able to create. Okay, no, being able to create the. Okay, so Brave New World, being able to create a Hulk with the pills, that's pretty world breaking. Being able to create God in a lab, that's also pretty world breaking for Thunderbolts. So yeah, uh, Thunderbolts also does a complete disservice to Sentry as a character. And they say, oh, it tackles mental health, it tackles mental health. It does it poorly, very poorly, especially because Sentry does not have bipolar disorder. He's not depressed. He has schizophrenia. He's insane. He's a lunatic. Sea Monster says they've literally been dragging. They'll literally drag Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen back into playing Xavier Magneto in their 90s. So them doing the same to Hugh Jackman and Wolverine is certainly on the table. Probably. So all of these compounding problems, damage the MCU to an irreparable degree. The MCU does not function anymore. It doesn't function. It no longer functions. So yeah, Doomsday is going to have to account for all of that, as well as all the character assassinations that I didn't even mention, because I don't want to get into those really. I don't really want to get into those because if we do, then we'll be here all day. Uh, all the character assassinations, all the garbage. Really, it's garbage. Before I started watching the MCU, I thought the Super Soldier Serum stopped your aging, which is why Steve looks so young. Um, hmm. Because Bucky. Actually, no, Bucky was preserved the same way as Steve was, so that's why he looks young. Okay, yeah, no, I thought it was one of the things it did, but then I remembered. Oh no, yeah, Bucky and Steve were the only ones that were preserved because in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and Brave New World, there was this guy called Isaiah who was like the first Winter Soldier, not the first Winter Soldier, one of the first super soldiers, but he was put in custody for the crime of being black. That's literally the plot. He gets arrested for being black in the 60s or 70s. Uh, I can't I cannot fathom such a. It's dumb. It's just dumb. But yeah, Doomsday is screwed. Doomsday is screwed. I said Supernova? Did I say Supernova? Okay, both of them are screwed. Both movies are screwed. That is a fact. That is like an absolute fact, an undeniable fact. Like there is so much irrefutable evidence for both. Like they're screwed. Absolutely. For some reason though, some people believe that there is actually hope for the MCU. So that is actually what we're going to be tackling today. So First, I'm going to be covering this video, um, which is a shorter version of of the original video, and I'm doing this because, for the sake of time. So let's actually get on with it, because I've been talking for an hour. But yeah, the world breaking for the MCU is broken. It does not function anymore. You need to reboot. Secret Wars and Doomsday need to be reboots, or else, like, you can't keep going. You can't keep going like this. So yeah, without further ado, there's no more ado left. Let's keep going. Let's actually begin. Let me just do this, and here we go.
So the Avengers teaser dropped, and as we probably all know by now, it's the same one that leaked. There were no surprises. Except for maybe the 8 people who somehow managed to live under a rock the size of a small moon. I'm willing to bet they were a bit surprised by this, but a lot of us weren't. Before I go further, this video will contain full spoilers for the Avengers Doomsday trailer. It's a little weird to give a spoiler warning for a commercial, but I'm going to anyway since there's been a lot of hype around this trailer. Now,
hype? I haven't seen any hype. I've seen derision, I've seen mockery, but hype? No. No. I don't know, maybe that's just his circle, his experience. I can't really say much. Anyway.
If you are one of those 8 people who doesn't know what the highlight of this teaser is and haven't seen Avatar, I don't want to give it away, so click off this video unless you don't.
I forgot about that. So the Doomsday trailer came in, like, so it was first dropped when Avatar came out. Like Avatar Fire and Ash, I think that was the name. That was so funny. Imagine sitting through a 3-hour movie, like paying to watch a 3-hour long movie just so you can see a trailer. That is, I can't tell if that's stupid or genius, honestly, because people actually did go to watch it. That's the funny part. Nobody went to, like, a lot of people did not care about Fire and Ash, so that's funny. That was pretty funny, I think.
Don't care. There was a lot of discussion going in about what the teaser would be, and it was confirmed that there were going to be 4 of them, which is insane to me because Doomsday's marketing plan hinges on someone going to see Avatar 4 times. I didn't even want to see Avatar 1 time. It's not a good movie.
I haven't seen Avatar. From what I have heard, it seems to corroborate what he's saying. I've never really been interested in the Avatar movies, I'm going to be honest. Like, I don't remember a single thing from the first movie. I'm not going to call it bad, but I just found it to be boring. But the thing about the soundtrack, I don't remember if it was Lau in chat that said it, Kaskeg. But I remember, or if it was someone else, a friend of mine, it was probably a closer friend of mine. I might be misremembering. I have terrible memory. So the soundtrack for Fire and Ash was not the Fire and Ash, the original Avatar. So James Cameron wanted to have a score that was like alien and sounded alien, like kind of like what Hans Zimmer wanted to do with Dune. And it sounded otherworldly and ethereal. And at the last minute, James Cameron was like, I don't like that, let's go with traditional stuff. So imagine spending years of your life working to basically invent a new genre of music, and it gets scrapped. That sucks. I wonder what happened to that musician. She must be pissed. I hope she sued. Vic in chat, Kaijunat says, haven't seen the teaser before Avatar, didn't know beforehand Fire and Ash was good. I don't trust you. I'm sorry, but when you say that any movie is good, I don't trust you. My immediate assumption, love you, buddy, but like, if you say a movie's good, I'm going to have to assume that it's bad. I don't trust, because you think Godzilla 98 is a good movie and that GXK, I'm sorry, I love you, buddy, but no. Sorry. I don't trust you. I don't trust your judgment. You can say that you like it, though. You're allowed to like it, but, like, say that. Don't say it's good.
Imagine going to see 13 hours of it. And once they started leaking, it became clear that the reports over what the trailers were were very accurate.
Oh, plus, I forgot to mention this. So, one of the newest, most recent trailers that came out was the X-Men trailer involving Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart as Magneto and Charles Xavier, respectively, with James Marsden returning as Cyclops. So, there was this leak that of the plot of Doomsday that the movie was basically going to start with the X-Men being responsible for the incursion that happens in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man universe, which ultimately will make people hate the X-Men, which is hilarious to me. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't like the X-Men. Conceptually, I don't think they work at all. Especially in what's it called? The larger, broader Marvel universe. I don't think the X-Men work. You kind of have to basically completely ignore so many things about the lore, but also not just the lore, but also just world building you have to ignore because like, okay, these mutants, the main premise is there are mutants on planet Earth. Beings with extraordinary abilities that what's it called? Beings with extraordinary abilities that, are persecuted because they, developed these abilities. I guess you could say through evolution, I guess. So basically the mutants are Homo superior. But that has problems in a world full of superheroes, especially those that have been, like, born with superpowers that aren't mutants. Because for some reason, nobody seems prejudiced against them, but everyone's prejudiced against the mutants. It literally makes no sense internally. And it's not a thing about prejudice where you can say, oh yeah, no, prejudice makes no sense. No, like, it logically makes no sense. On top of the fact that most of the mutations that the mutants develop are destructive. Like, there are so many mutants that can control the elements and the basic forces of the universe that can destroy cities. So many. In the X-Men alone, without counting the villains, in the X-Men alone, that can destroy the world. And then the X-Men are surprised that people are prejudiced against them. It's not prejudice, it's fear. And frankly, I would be scared too, if I were a citizen. And there's something that this guy on Twitter said that caught my attention. I haven't fully read it. I saved it specifically for this stream. No, I didn't. That's a lie. Here it is. Here's a curiosity. Stan Lee spent years explaining that the motivation for creating the X-Men was laziness. He was tired of coming up with elaborate, over-the-top origin stories for powers and decided that the characters would simply be born superpowered because they were mutants. Years later, when someone asked the old man directly if the X-Men were meant to represent a metaphor against racial discrimination, he answered bluntly that it was not his idea when he created the group, even though he thought that interpretation was cool. In an era where virtue signaling is the rule, Stan Lee's most unbelievable honesty is something to admire. And you know what's worse? If you analyze it cold-bloodedly, the metaphor about prejudice in the X-Men stories is complete garbage. And I'm not even saying it because it doesn't make sense to be prejudiced against mutants while at the same time admiring the Avengers. Actually, it's the opposite. The metaphor is bad because it makes too much sense to be prejudiced against the mutants. Imagine living in a world where randomly a kid can suddenly awaken the power to vaporize an entire neighborhood with a sneeze. Any normal human who isn't afraid of that is a complete moron. I haven't actually thought about it like that. I haven't thought about it like that. By the way, you know who else we should be against mutants? The gun control lobby people. They use school shootings to stir up emotion for their discourse, but a teenager with a bazooka behind his eyes attending the same school is fine. The same school as your kid is fine. Even the pro-gun crowd isn't in favor of teenagers carrying firearms, so who in the right mind would be in favor of teenagers with superpowers walking around freely? And it gets worse when you consider that the number of tragedies and catastrophes involving mutants is terrifyingly high in the Marvel universe. House of M. You guys remember House of M? No more mutants. No more mutants. You guys remember that? I just realized that you guys can't see what is actually being read. I'm so sorry. Let me just fix that. I am so sorry. You can't actually read what is currently on the screen. I am terribly sorry. Anyway, And it gets even worse when you consider that the number of tragedies and catastrophes involving mutants is terrifyingly high in the Marvel Universe. House of M. Several schools have already been destroyed, but then just to prove that they are real threats. And if you're still not convinced, remember that there are entire orders and brotherhoods of supremacist mutants who not only preach the extermination of the human race, but have already tried multiple times to carry out that plan. Magneto. Mutants are much closer to super Nazis than to superheroes, even though some of them have a backstory as victims of not fascism. I don't like that word, Nazism, fascism, to generate sympathy. Magneto. So, okay, the X-Men are indeed heroes because they use their powers for good, protect humans, and fight for harmony between the races, but they represent a tiny minority of humans. There are far more mutants who represent the threat to humanity than there are heroes. And another thing that I don't know if he's going to mention this, because again, I haven't read this yet in its entirety. Again, because this is translated from Portuguese. But it's funny because the X-Men act so self-righteous about it as well that they just come across as obnoxious. Because they don't actually address the problem. They go, meh, discrimination, bad. Prejudice, bad, meh. But they don't actually address the problem. So they come across as self-righteous pricks, and they are, most of them. And a lot of them, like hypocrites. I mean, just look at Jean Grey and Cyclops and Emma Frost and that whole love triangle, for example. Charles Xavier is the biggest hypocrite of them all. Anyway. Okay, so the X-Men are indeed heroes because they use their powers for good, protect humans, and fight for... I already read this. So if you're honest with yourself and take the story seriously, you'll realize that you wouldn't want your kid in the same school as a kid who spits acid either. Especially when you know that that's a good portion of them when you know that a good portion of them are visibly delinquents. I wouldn't put numbers into it so much as like the actual powers, but I get what he means. I think focusing on what the actual powers are, because why did they have to evolve to be offensive in like physically offensive, as in like weapons, like actual weapons? The punch dimension. You guys remember the punch dimension? Anyway, so the allegory is crap because it creates a scenario where racism makes a crap ton of sense, which is the exact opposite of what any anti-racist work should aim for. Sure, you can say, look at the story of the heroes from the hero's perspective, which cleans up all the problematic layers I laid out there. Fun fact, Kitty Pryde said the hard R to try and justify, to try and explain why mutant hate is bad. So she just dropped the hard R a long time ago. I think it was multiple times. Oh, you're a mutie. Oh, yeah, well, you're a hard R. That was funny. I thought, I find that hilarious to me. Oh, boy. The self-righteousness, I love it. I think you could call that dark woke. If you want, it's like the first example of dark woke. I love it. It's great. It's so funny. Sure, you can look at the story from the hero's perspective, which cleans up all the problematic layers I laid out there. But if you analyze the work with just a little bit more depth, it's not hard to notice all of this. And to wrap it up, even if the whole prejudice lore is already questionable, though I understand the allegories don't have to be perfect, the speech of this villain, which is referring to like the Exterminator, which I'm not going to play because it's in Portuguese, but it's from the X-Men 97 anime, which I do actually like, especially the delivery. See, Portuguese.
De não ficar chorando o tempo todo, entende? É a choradeira. Eu odeio a sua choradeira, tanto quanto eu odeio vocês.
Yeah, no, Portuguese. I don't understand Portuguese. I'm sorry. Like, I know tidbits because it's very close to Spanish, and I'm Hispanic, and I know I'm bilingual. So like, but there's just not enough Spanish in this part of his dialect to really translate. Sorry, it's easier for me to read Portuguese than it is to understand it, like hearing it. Also, off topic, I much prefer this suit for Cyclops than I do the new suit he gets later in the season. I like it when his hair is out. I really do. He has very nice hair. Anyway, the speech of this villain makes even more sense when you realize that the humans in the Marvel Universe really suffer a ton in this whole mutants versus humans mess. It's not like it's a one-sided massacre against mutants where they're just the poor little victims. No, mutants have killed a crap load of humans and continue to create global scale problems several times a year. Literally the entire plot of X-Men 97 is how there's a mutant that is literally doing this. Bastion. Stan Lee thinking of the X-Men was simply as another story about a group of heroes was on a much healthier path than the activists who wanted to score points, woke points, on the theme but were too dumb to notice the subtext they were creating. I like this post. This is a good post. This is a good post. I'm going to retweet. Yeah, this is a good post. Yeah, that pretty much sums up every single problem I have with the X-Men. That sums up every single problem that I have. Right there. Thank you. Let's continue, because we've been on here for a while. I don't want to waste any more time, because I'm on the clock. Let me just close this. And yep, here we go.
One trailer a week exclusively in front of Avatar, with the first 3 focusing on Steve Rogers, Thor, and Doctor Doom respectively, and the last one seemingly being an actual teaser for the movie. Now don't worry, I will talk about the rollout structure for these trailers because it is baffling to me. But we have to talk about the contents of the trailer first, and I just gotta say that this is an incredibly well-made teaser. Regardless of my very complicated and mostly negative thoughts that we'll get to momentarily, I thought this was brilliantly edited. You see,
why am I showing you guys this? Well, because in an earlier video, he said he had hope for the MCU. He thought Daredevil Born Again and Thunderbolts were good movies. There was a third movie, I don't remember which one it was. But he had said in the past, and you can check it in his video, it was the... Let me see. It was the I have hope for the MCU. Oh god, he did a Superman video. Oh god. Oh, that movie was terrible. This one, I have hope for the MCU, which I tried to cover, but because that stream is unwatchable, I'm not going to cover it anymore. And basically, I'm just saying everything I said in that stream, so it's not going to be necessary anymore to cover this. And I was going into more details as to like why Thunderbolts was bad, but that's not really necessary for the overall point. So it was just, I thought it was informative, but it's not necessary. But yeah, I have hope for the MCU. Just watch this video. Oh, he thought Loki was good as well. He thought Loki was good. But yeah, this was a terrible video. Terrible. He also thought Fantastic Four, that was the movie. So he thought Fantastic Four was good. So it's strange to me that he would have any negative opinions at all. So, yeah, it's weird to me.
See someone riding up on a motorcycle, and then a man who looks a lot like Chris Evans walks up to a house that looks a lot like Steve and Peggy's house from the end of Endgame. Then he goes inside and looks at his Captain America suit that has been stowed away. The last shot of the trailer is him holding a baby, and it's worth noting that a very somber piano version of the Avengers theme is playing over the entire thing. I really enjoyed that rendition of it, actually. Then it just says, Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday, before what is actually the best part of the teaser in my opinion, which is the way they choose to close it out. A green version of the Avengers logo shows up with a countdown starting at 12 months, because it comes out on December 18th, 2026, which is exactly 1 year after Avatar Fire and Ash's opening day. So the teaser itself is very well done, and something I noticed watching it was the visual style, which is actually the main thing that stood out to me besides the music. Of the 4 current Russo brothers MCU films, I only like the visuals of 2 of them. That's Winter Soldier and Infinity War. Well, Infinity War most of the time. To me,
Civil War, Infinity War are probably the most crisp looking movies. Oh, and Winter Soldier, yeah. Winter Soldier, Infinity War, and Civil War are probably the most crisp-looking movies that the Russos have made in the MCU. I believe the Russos did Civil War. I don't remember. It was probably the Russo brothers. They must have been involved because the movie was good. Unless we count the other movies that they've made like Electric State. Oh man, oh boy.
Civil War and Endgame are pretty ugly to look at. As much as...
What? Okay, Endgame I can understand. Civil War? Ugly? Really? Okay. That is a take. Okay. Wow, that is a take.
As I love the airport battle, it has always bothered me that the titular fight of that movie takes place in the most boring, gray setting imaginable.
I mean, don't you think that's a problem with the set as opposed to like, because like I get it, I get that it's just like a concrete jungle, but at the same time, like, don't you think that's just a problem with the set itself? Because the fight was colorful. Like, if you want color, the fight does have color. Maybe you could say that it's muted, right? But it's there. You can't say that it's not there because it's there.
Titular fight of that movie takes place in the most boring.
Like, if you wanted to say that the colors are muted, fine, and that's probably mostly a problem of the set itself, because you know how the light reflects onto their suits, it makes them look this way. And maybe if they fought in a different location, it would look better. Maybe you could say that's a problem with the set. At that point, fine, I would grant you that, but that's really it. Nothing to do with like the cinematography or like the coloring or any of that. I wouldn't say that. Because like the Winter Soldier doesn't have that problem, or Infinity War doesn't have that problem, because like a lot of the fights take place like in very colorful areas, like Titan and Wakanda, for example, in a darkly lit subway. That's another thing. At nighttime, where all the street lamps are yellow, so that's like more color. But that's not that has nothing to do with, like, the filters, the coloring. It's more to do with, like, the set and how the light interacts with everything and its surroundings. I don't think that has. If he's saying it's the set, then I would grant him that.
Boring, gray setting imaginable. And the last hour of Endgame just looks like mud. I heard some whispers that the Russos were trying to make Doomsday a little more visually exciting, which I kind of noticed in the Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four post-credit scenes. Those were directed by the two of them, and there's a lot more light and contrast in those scenes than I've seen in several of their movies. And this teaser pretty much confirms that for me. This looks like they're going with something new and different, and the shots in this teaser really stuck out. The shot of him walking up to the house and you see his silhouette in the window, that was just a really cool shot.
That looks very 60s, by the way. It's kind of look like you're walking into your grandma's house in the 60s and 70s. This might be like during the past, now that I look at it.
100% on board with the visual style. With that out of the way, let's talk about Stephen Grant Rogers. Avengers Endgame is a...
Bro used his full name. Look how much of a fan he is. He used his full name. Guys, aren't you impressed?
Sacred movie to me. It's not my favorite MCU movie, it's not my favorite Avengers movie, but I will always cherish it for a number of reasons. One of the reasons being that Tony Stark and Steve Rogers' storylines ended in the most perfect way.
No. It wasn't perfect, but I do agree that is like the best part of the entire movie. To say that it was perfect, no. There is still the entire plot to consider, which involves them. And it was mostly just them reacting to it, which, I mean, I guess you could say is, like, not bad, because, like, for their character in particular, because they were reacting the best way they knew how, with the information that they have, which is stupid information, which, I mean, I guess you can only respond stupidly, which is, like, not their fault precisely, because in their perspective, not just their perspective, but from the perspective of the MCU, it would be the smart decision. But, yeah, like, no, it wasn't perfect. No, sorry. Endgame was bad, you guys. Endgame was very bad.
The two characters completely switched over their time in the MCU, with the saga ending on Tony making the most selfless decision imaginable, and Steve
again making the most selfish decision imaginable again.
Finally doing something just for himself.
Well, actually, no. Well, I guess you could say that they're not comparable, because, okay, in the first Avengers, he did give his life for the world. In this movie, he gave it for the universe, for a universe that most likely will not even know who he is. So I guess, you know what? Fine, I'll give it to him.
No notes. I am fully okay with never seeing Iron Man or Captain America again.
One small note, Captain America would never do this. Captain America would never, like, screw up the timeline like that by going back in time to, you know, have his baby with Peggy Carter. It goes against his character and it breaks the world. I'm sorry. That's just I don't make the rules. I just point out how they're broken.
At least not this version of them. But Marvel has other plans. So while the contents of this trailer were good, I don't like the fact that the first footage we get of Avengers Doomsday is centered entirely around Steve Rogers. It's something that speaks to a larger issue I have with this movie on a conceptual level. Marvel did not even try to do an Avengers movie without the old guard. And yeah, RDJ might be playing a different character, but the fact that it's him specifically means that the entire trio is back together for this movie.
No, I don't think. Because to my knowledge, Scarlett Johansson isn't coming back, is she? Is she coming back? I don't think she is. Because I don't remember seeing her because they made the whole announcement with the chairs and everything, which I highly doubt that is going to be the complete cast, because Tom Holland absolutely would be there as Spider-Man, but he's not, so I believe he's going to be casted later. Is Scarlett... I highly doubt she's returning for Doomsday. Maybe if she gets, casted later, I could believe it, but she's not, as of now. I haven't heard anything about her. So the old guard isn't coming back. Unless she's talking specifically about Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor. In which case, yeah, I guess so. He's right about that. Yeah, no, Scarlett Johansson isn't coming back. She's dead. So yeah, she's not coming back.
And I'm not sure why they didn't just announce Chris Evans in that stupid chair video. The fact that Marvel went out of their way to tell us what the all-new, all-different cast of this movie was is completely negated by the fact that the first footage we see of the movie is centered entirely around a character that was not in that video. It's baffling to me.
I forgot about that. Steve Rogers, Chris Evans was not in that calling cast chair thing. So, I don't know. You know what? Maybe ScarJo could come back. Who knows?
It also devalues everyone else a little bit. But from a story standpoint, the way they have set this up, while it's an interesting setup, leaves a lot of potential for disappointment. Steve being in this movie and being part of the adventure, for that matter, because he obviously will be, means that he didn't really get his happy ending, did he? He went back in time to be with the love of his life, and what I'm gathering from this is that doing that broke the multiverse or something along those lines. I'm not quite sure what else they would do that requires bringing Steve back into the fold.
I hate this. Okay, so off topic slightly. This frame has been permanently ruined for me because they replaced RDJ's face with Charlie Kirk. I can't look at the scene anymore without looking at Charlie Kirk, and I have seen so many memes with this version of like that version of the scene, but with Charlie Kirk, that it's been permanently seared into my brain, and I can't unsee it now. So when I look at RD, I just see Charlie Kirk. I can't help it. I hate the internet so much. Ted Kaczynski was right. Anyway.
Bringing Steve back into the fold. So whenever we watch Endgame after Doomsday comes out, we have to think about the fact that this ending wasn't happy. Because not long after his dance with Peggy, he was pulled back into the fold to go do more avenging on a threat that Marvel, I'm sure, wants to set up as a bigger threat than Thanos. And guys, to be honest, I do not like that. It also kind of hurts Sam Wilson in my...
Not to mention, this is something that he doesn't mention. There are so many threats that are like bigger than Thanos already, like Dormammu, who hasn't been mentioned at all since Doctor Strange in 2016. 10 years ago. We haven't seen Dormammu in 10 years. Then there's Galactus, who got sent to the MCU. It was the MCU, let's face it. There was nowhere else he could have ended up. Like, that's always going to happen. He was always going to end up in the MCU. Let's be completely honest here. And the Celestials, if you want to count the Insurgents, like, there's a giant dead god in the middle of the ocean. Like, if you want to count those, then yeah, that's a pretty big threat, I would say. Like, if they ever turn against humanity, yeah, I would say those are pretty big threats. Then you have... What else do you have? I know you have something else bigger than Thanos. Gore the God Butcher at one point was a bigger threat than Thanos. Literally anything that can kill Thanos is a bigger threat than Thanos if they turn evil. Literally anything. Anything that can kill Thanos. And so many characters like that were introduced in the last few phases. So yeah.
My opinion, his Captain America run has been insanely disappointing, and I was excited at the prospect of the Russos making him cooler, just like they did for Steve. And I'm sure they still can, but again, considering the first footage we're getting for this movie is exclusively about Steve Rogers, it makes it pretty clear which Captain America they want us to be interested in going forward.
It's not them, it's us. It's because we're not interested in Sam Wilson because they character assassinated him so hard in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In that show, he is a bully. You have any idea how hard he and Bucky bully John Walker over trying to do the right thing? He's arguably more of a Captain America than Sam Wilson will ever be. And I would have said the same thing about Bucky and say he's more of a Captain America than Sam ever will be. But no, he's worse. Because just look at how he behaves in Thunderbolts. He just keeps dunking on him whenever he gets a chance, if he ever gets a chance at all. He's terrible now. He's been character assassinated so hard, both of them. So yeah, like, nobody likes Sam Wilson anymore because they ruined him. They ruined him. No one wants to see him anymore because, like, and I don't think it's Anthony Mackie's fault. I think he was just given a bad script, and there were some lines from the little that I have seen, because I haven't seen it, but I have seen some bits and pieces of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There were some lines that just do not sound like are things that the writers would have him say. These feel like Anthony Mackie lines trying to salvage what is left of the script, and he has been vocal about a lot of things, about how the MCU has handled its black heroes, because he is not happy about it. He is not happy. There was some behind the scenes drama with Brave New World, which was previously called New World Order. Why would you call it that, knowing the kind of people in our world that would, not take kindly to that name? They didn't even have a script, and he flipped tables like, oh, I'm clanking. Well, I have a recording, so if it gets too bad, I'm just going to upload the recording. Okay, right. So, he was basically flipping tables demanding a script. So like, where's the script? Where's the script? Because there wasn't a script when they were filming Brave New World, or New World Order, however you want to call it. So yeah, like, no one likes Sam anymore. He used to be cool, but no, he sucks now because the writers ruined him. To no fault of Anthony Mackie, he's a good actor.
And it makes Sam getting the shield less impactful, knowing that Steve is just going to rejoin the fight. I'm really getting the sense that Marvel brought the new characters in just because they had to, but are happy to bench them in their first team outing just so they can bring back the trio and make a quick buck, because someone like my dad will be far more invested in this movie if Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr. are the ones dominating the poster. So let's talk about the trio.
The way he says it, like, it ruins Sam's character. It kind of, you're basically ignoring a lot of what's happened with Civil War to say that, because, like, I believe, I don't remember if he said this, but the way he says it makes it sound as though Falcon and the Winter Soldier was good, like him getting the shield, but because he does like give up the shield again in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but he just like takes it, basically steals it back from John Walker because he gets it temporarily. He basically just steals it back, and I think it was Bucky that broke his arm in order to get it. So yeah, like actual bully behavior. But yeah, I don't know if he thinks Falcon and the Winter Soldier is good. It's not. But if he thinks that, then he already has a very, very erroneous presupposition when he makes that claim, which ultimately makes it erroneous altogether. Like he ends up at the right conclusion, but using the wrong equation and the wrong numbers, the wrong variables. Which is that the movies that this is ultimately undermined. So they undermined their own undermining in a way.
Obviously, Thor has to be in this movie. He's still alive and is in desperate need of an overhaul, that I did not need to see the three of these guys headlining a movie. And sure, we don't know if they are the actual headliners of the film, but considering the trailers are all centered around them, it's safe to say that those are the three people Marvel wants you to see this movie for. And I'm just not a fan of it. And if they want to put Steve in the movie, sure, put him in the movie, but Marvel needed to pick a lane on this. They wanted to have their cake and eat it too. Marvel didn't feel like announcing Chris Evans with the rest of the cast, and they didn't feel like holding the surprise for the actual movie's release.
I need to rewatch the first Avenger. That was a great movie.
So instead they did whatever the hell this strategy was. And speaking of strategy, what is up with this rollout? Like I said, Disney is counting on people seeing Avatar 4 times. That's stupid for any movie. So the people seeing Avatar once, like yours truly, get to see a super high quality 3D trailer for Steve Rogers, and then for the other 3 trailers, I get to see theater recordings that look like they were filmed on a potato. How is that supposed to get me excited? They could have and should have just done one trailer. Just drop a full teaser. It's what movies have been doing since their invention. Or if
Desperation, that's why. But it's funny he says that though, because like he says that the MCU might be heading in a good direction, because he said that Loki was good, Daredevil Born Again was good, Fantastic Four was good, Thunderbolts was good. He said all those movies was good in his previous video, so I don't understand. I have no idea like why he's... I mean, he said that the MCU has gone on a downhill stream, but then he says all those projects were good. So, like, where is the downhill stream coming from? What is the down in this hill?
If you really wanted to do these stupid character trailers, the first one that dropped should not have been Steve. It should have been Dr. Doom.
Why? Why would they do that? Like, it's true that they're desperate and they would do these things, but like at the same time, from a marketing standpoint, why would you do that? Why would you do that? Because like they didn't do it completely when Infinity War came out. They did it with the later trailers where they revealed Thanos, but like they were like very like what's it called? They were very generous with conservative with how much they showed Thanos. And Doctor Doom is arguably the biggest and best villain Marvel has at their disposal right now. And because they have the Fox property now, and they can finally use Doctor Doom, they're going to milk the hell out of it for the movie itself. But they want to generate hype around him. Like, when are we going to see him? When are we going to see him? They're going to try and find leaks. They're going to accidentally allow leaks to happen where we actually get to see Doctor Doom. Hell, we already got the design already. So why would they spoil their own surprise from a marketing standpoint? Why would they do that? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Doom is in the title for the movie. RDJ's casting has been what 90% of the talk of the movie has been thus far. He's a saga-ending villain that we've only seen for like 4 seconds in a post-credit scene. We know nothing about him, and on the complete flip side of that, he's one of the coolest Marvel villains ever.
That is precisely why they're not going to show him immediately, if they were smart. That's a stupid decision. Why would you... You know, I believe that they would. But, again, I have to ask, like, why would they?
Second only to Magneto. You only have one chance to make a first impression.
Wait, Magneto? You don't think Kang is higher up there? You know? Like, saga ending? You want to talk about saga ending? Kang, Annihilus, Null... Yeah, Kang, Annihilus, and Null. Those are the like the saga enders. Wanda herself, like Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch. I'm blanking out. I don't know why I'm blanking out. It's supposed to be my area of expertise. Why am I blanking out? Dark Phoenix. That's a pretty big saga ender. Like, no? Okay. Alright, sure.
My first impression of the movie was an announcement of someone who either should not have been in it or should not have been revealed to us a year out. And my first impression of Doom is going to be a cam rip instead of a theatrical experience.
So why don't you go to the movie? Oh, I'm not gonna pay to watch Avatar because I don't like Avatar. Oh, then wait for the trailer because that's what I did. I just waited for the trailer. You don't have to go to the movie. You don't have to like look at the leaked trailer like footage. You don't have to. You're not obligated to. Do I need to remind you that you have free will, or did Loki steal that from you too?
What kind of marketing is that, and how is it supposed to get me more excited for Doomsday? The Russos have never let me down with a Marvel movie, and we've yet to get a
Sea Monster says the problem with Kang was that he was used in Quantumania and he sucked booty cheeks. He sucked even like prior. Like they say that like He Who Remains is not different Kang, but it's Kang. It's Kang. I mean in general, like general comic villains. I don't mean MCU exclusively. Saga. If we want to talk about saga enders, because this was supposed to be Kang. I think having Kang is worse. Would have been worse. But we'll see. Because they're adapting Secret Wars and, you know, the whole thing with Battle World, so.
bad Avengers movie. Marvel's aware that this movie needs to succeed, and I imagine that hard work will be reflected in the final film. But the fact that this is the first official look at the film leaves me feeling very bleak. The feeling that Marvel gave up, and in an act of desperation they brought back the old because they're afraid of the new.
Well, you said that the MCU was heading in a good direction with the Fantastic Four and the Thunderbolts and Born Again and Loki. Yeah, you said those were good. What happened? Where did all that excitement go? Like the movie we had previous, like just now, is Fantastic Four, a movie you say is good. What's up with that?
Regardless of whether or not that's a good idea. And I know that for about a year, we've known that this whole thing is an act of desperation, but up until now, they've done a really good job of hiding that it was.
What? They've done a good job at hiding it. They've done everything but hide it, dude. Why do you think they announced... Okay, fun fact. When they announced that RDJ was returning, I was still in the army. So, like, my drill sergeant, who's like... You know that kid that does the meme, the whole... My name is Skylar White, yo. My husband is Walter White, yo. You know, the point where he does the mewing part and his eyebrows go up? So, that drill sergeant has a permanent face that looks exactly like that. He's tall, he's intimidating... And ironically, he's the nicest drill sergeant in our platoon. Or he was, because, again, I'm not in there anymore. But he stopped our training exercises like, hey, guys. Because he has a crazy deep voice. Hey, guys. Hey, guys. Did you guys know that Robert Downey Jr. was returning as Dr. Doom? Here you go. Just pulled out his phone, showed us. I was like, what? I threw a fit like, what? So, no. They haven't hid it at all. Like, hiding RD... Like, they didn't hide RDJ. They paid too much money to not show him.
It was an act of desperation. Steve's story ended, and obviously we were going to see him again, but I was really hoping it wasn't going to be this version this soon. But I don't know. Guess we'll just have to wait and see.
I don't get it. I seriously don't get it. Because he said that the movie was gonna be good, the movie might be good, or be heading in a good direction. Because I wanted to cover the Series Thor video, because that's more recent. But, you know, for the sake of time, I'm actually gonna call it here.